What leadership skills or traits do you think that you learned as an athlete that have served you really well as a business owner?
One of the biggest things I've seen in leadership is the importance of embodiment. And so embodiment means being the person that you say that you are at all times. This goes for being an athlete, right? You say you want to be an elite athlete. Well, are you only showing up at training and being that? Or are you also being that at home when no one's looking and no one's watching?
I'm Julie B, and you're playing the game of leadership. Hey there, I'm Julie B, and this is the Game of Leadership. On this show, I interview athletes who have become entrepreneurs about how their experience as an athlete has elevated their leadership in their companies. Today's episode is really special because I get to interview Danielle Kettlewell, an author, coach, and speaker. Danielle is also a former Olympian, competing as a synchronized swimmer in the 2016 Summer Olympics. And I know that Danielle and I are just going to have a great conversation about leadership, business, and about how being an athlete has really propelled her forward in her career as an entrepreneur. So Danielle, welcome to the show. Thanks for the time, and thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Julie. I love having the opportunity to come on podcasts. I'm so grateful that this worked out.
Yeah, so let's just start off with an overview about what you're doing today as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love this question because usually I talk about my history that led me to the Olympics, but it's been so much more exciting. Well, not more exciting, but it's just a different journey in entrepreneurship. I really had this kind of calling as soon as I made it to the Olympics to do something bigger with my experience, my wisdom, my knowledge, my story, what I learned. And that naturally led me into publishing my book when I retired from sport. And then I actually was going to go into speaking, and I still do speaking. But then the pandemic hit, and so everything went online. And so I moved into the world of online coaching with women around the world. So what I do now is I work with women primarily around the world. We work on their self-worth and their mindset and their self-belief to really enhance their life. So I run programs, I work one-on-one with people, and I also run retreats with my fiance, who is a therapist as well.
Wow, that is a combination right there. I can only imagine. Yeah. I'm like, okay, when's your next retreat, and can I sign up for it? Because it
sounds
November. Yeah, I'll check that out. Awesome. Oh yeah, that is okay. Checking that out after this. But what is your favorite part about being a business owner, Danielle?
I think there's a couple avenues of that. I really love the freedom. I was the type of person, I was trying to get out of the 9-to-5 before I got into it. It would literally make me feel nauseous if I would have to go and work from 9-to-5. And it's so funny because I really believe that business owners, usually we work more than 40 hours, but you kind of work it in your own time zone. So it doesn't feel so restrictive. And you can, depending if you work online, you can do it from so many different places. So there was always that real desire in me to have freedom. And especially since, my journey to the Olympics, my partner is Aussie. And so there was a really big piece of location freedom. So I have family in Canada, he has family in Australia. And so it made us to really not want to have to only be able to visit family when we asked for 2 weeks off a year. We wanted to be able to really create a life that we could work, a business that could work around our life and my life. And then the other piece as well is kind of having the ability of control to be able to positively impact people, because contribution is the best feeling in the entire world. I think every single one of us, could probably attribute to that. And so I wanted to have an avenue where I could actually make a difference. And it felt like going into business for myself and being an entrepreneur was the best avenue that I could do that in.
Yeah. So what are some of your biggest wins, or some of the things that have made you feel the best as a business owner so far in terms of what you've been able to achieve?
It would honestly be my client results. And the reason that I moved into business as well is because I was actually in 2019, I was in my last year of training, and I was thinking, and I was trialing to go to the 2020 Olympics.
Wow.
And I was so excited about that. Who wouldn't want to go to 2 Olympic games, right? But I had this really deep calling inside of me that I wanted to do something greater. And that was really because being an athlete is amazing, but I think as any athlete can probably second this, is that it's a very selfish thing. You need to be selfish, and it's not bad. Selfish is not a bad thing, but you have to focus fully on yourself. It's all about how much sleep you get, what you eat, like how you spend your time, making sure that you're resting enough, you're optimizing your performance, and you're really focused on yourself. And I had spent, 5 years on the national team primarily focused on me, and I did my sport for 18, 19 years in total. And so I got to this point where I was like, I just don't want it to be about me anymore. I want to do something bigger than me, because every single human feels good when you've helped someone else. And so I would say one of the most fulfilling parts of my business is seeing the results that happen to my clients when we work on their mindset, self-worth, and self-belief. Like the transformations that I've seen in the women that I have worked with have been absolutely phenomenal. People feeling worthy enough, to wear a bathing suit, people feeling worthy enough to start a business, people having the mindset tools to go after their dreams, people literally, attracting the love of their life, all through really doing the personal development work. And recently, as we're recording this, only 10 days ago, we finished our first retreat in Bali, and being able to be in person with people and seeing how you can literally create 5 years of transformation in 8 days. And like how these women walked out of this retreat literally saying that they feel like a new human being and a new woman. It's just the most gratifying thing in the world. And so I feel so privileged and lucky that I get to have an insight on people's life and then help them become who they're wanting to be.
There are so many questions I want to ask you, like as a follow-up to that. But one thing I want to ask you is, how does that win compare to, and we don't have to go all the way up to the Olympics and being in the Olympics, but like, how does that win compared to some of the successes you've had in businesses? Like how does it compare?
It's so hard to compare. It kind of is like apples to oranges, because it's, I'm so proud. I literally yesterday, Julie, I broke down in tears because I'm so proud of what I've done in my life, and I'm 30. And so I still blow my own mind that I was able to do that. And that's why I advocate so much in my business now, because my book is called The Unlikely Olympian. I never thought that this would be me. I didn't think that I was special. I didn't think that I had anything in me to do anything extraordinary. And for somebody like that to end up becoming an Olympian, and much less now helping women and humans around the world, I've blown my own mind. Yeah. But then when you get to see the transformation it's had in other people's lives, it's a different level of fulfillment. So I wouldn't say it's like the Olympics is awesome.
Yeah, like
proud of myself. But it's like apples to oranges. But each is so incredibly beautiful, and I'm so grateful for both of them.
So one thing you said was that your retreat, it was 8 days, I think you said?
Yeah.
And people go into the retreat, and then they, some of them come out and feel like their life has changed. And I think that I would love to talk with you about this, because I think that there's this really interesting dynamic going on. And I'll just say like the coaching world in general, people who work in coaching, where for the longest time, it was you need to work with a coach for 12 months. You've got to work that long to see results, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, like I've worked with coaches that way, and I have had massive results. But it's interesting, and it's interesting that you've had that experience. I literally just had that experience today where I worked with a client for 1 month, and there was like a 44% increase in productivity for them. So, and we measured all of that. So can you talk a little bit about, like, I guess the time from, that timeline and the improvements that people can make in such a short amount of time, just your perspective on that?
Yeah, and this is me going a little bit woo-woo, but like time is an illusion anyways, right? Okay. And so we get to really, I think sometimes we have a structured belief on it, like how fast we can make change. And I think that there's like a balance in it as well, right? Because sometimes it does take time to make change. And working with, I've worked with clients for over 12 months, and it's created beautiful change in their life. But you also can create change in 8 days. And I think it depends on the level level of like alignment with the person that you're working with, because if you're working with someone who's your person, then they can change your life really quickly. The embodiment and integrity of that leader that's guiding you, because unfortunately, I mean, you speak to leaders, but there can be some leaders that are out of alignment, out of integrity, and they're not doing what they say that they're going to do, or they're not leading an embodiment of their work. And so I think that can also lead to people not getting results in certain time periods. And then, you know, one of the things that I've really realized through running the retreat, there is such a difference between being in person with someone and being online. Yeah. I'm so grateful for online because I have clients all over the world, like Hungary, Philippines, Europe, UK, like US, America, Australia, like New Zealand, like everywhere. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't do online work. But, you know, I think it's just this reminder, especially post-pandemic, for us to put ourselves in physical rooms with physical people, because you will see transformation faster because there's no distraction, right? You know, we're on our retreat and it's like, you know, usually when I'm on my calls with my clients, it's like their phone rings or their kid walks by or somebody's in the background, and we are so distracted. But, you know, on our retreat, you know, there's no phones around. It's just us and them. Even people that have like neurodivergent brains are so incredibly focused, and it just created kind of this vortex for rapid transformation. And so I think that we just need to take like the limits off of like how quickly we believe that transformation can happen, or not quickly, and focus more on the alignment of who we're working with, the embodiment of that leader, and also our commitment to the work, right? We had such incredible transformation in the retreat also because like they're committed, like they're in Bali with us, right? Days, they're not going anywhere, right? Like, and they can't hide, right? And so we had like 11 people there, and so every person is seen. Whereas sometimes, you know, when you're online, especially if you're in a group program, like you can hide, and so people don't show up to their fullest integrity.
Well, and they're showing up there with an energy and an intention, and I'm sure you pre-screen people as well, so you know like some of the people who are coming to those retreats. So they're showing up there with the intention of, I'm going to change my life during these days while I'm at this retreat too. And when one person has that energy and intention, it's amazing. But when you get a group of people together who are all going into something, it's, you know, that synergy thing of where I can only imagine the energy levels in the room, and not like from a hyper bouncing around type of thing, just the intention behind why they were there and what they were doing was probably really impressive.
Yeah, and I think it's like commitment level too. And you see that in sport too. Like the level of commitment that people have is a direct correlation between the results that they have. Because, you know, I was speaking about this in another group that I was talking to the other day. It's like a lot of people dabble with their dreams. It's like, I'm just going to put a little toe into my business and then I'm going to like walk out, you know? And so therefore your results are a direct correlation of the effort or commitment level that you have. But when you're fully committed, whether it be to your business or your transformation, I really believe that you also accordingly see those results.
Hey, this is Julie B, and thanks for watching The Game of Leadership. I'm here with Danielle Kettlewell, and we were just having a fantastic conversation, full of energy. I'm just pumped to be here, Danielle. This is great. But I do want to ask you, you are clearly a high achiever, and most athletes who have reached, I mean, obviously the ones that have reached the Olympic level they have that high achievement philosophy in their brain, I think. But have you found places where that has really helped you and also hindered you in a business? Have you seen that as a business owner? Have you seen it help you and also hurt you?
Yeah, like I think partially how it's helped me is like I'm the person that gets stuff done. And that's also been a big identity shift for me, because I would say probably 15 years ago I wasn't that person, but now I'm the person that, like, you know, because there's so many people that doubted me along my journey. You know, I said I was going to go to the Olympics and people were like, I don't know. I said I was going to write a book and people were like, really? I said I was going to run a retreat. People were like, I don't know. And like, so I'm the person that proves people wrong, and I'm the person that follows through on what I say.
Love it.
And so like that level of my high achiever has been really powerful. I'd say the downfall of it is sometimes, you know, not knowing when to stop and like making sure that you rest in that, also because I'm so excited about what I do. And then sometimes, you know, as well being hard on myself, because I think that's like the shadow side of a lot of high achievers is we want all the results yesterday.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's funny we're speaking about time, but like sometimes it takes time and experience as well to build business.
Yeah.
Just like it is, like I didn't do my sport for 1 year and then become an Olympian. Like I was doing it for 13 years before I actually got to the Olympic Games, right? And so I've had to remind myself in this, even though I've had beautiful success and transformation with my clients, I'm still only 3.5 years in to my business, right? So I need to be kind on myself that I haven't made it to the Olympics of my level of business yet.
Yeah. Are there, Danielle, in your business, are there any mistakes that you've made thus far that you look back and you say, man, I would do that one differently? Is there anything that you would do differently?
This is such a good question. And I was thinking about this when I read this, that you were going to ask me this before. I think I'm not a big one to say like I have regrets, because I think everything has a lesson. But looking back, what I wish that I would have done differently as kind of like a theme is that I gave my power away to other people having the answers, and realizing that I think we can do this in the online world. People are getting so good at marketing and it's amazing. And so many people do have amazing products, but not everything that everyone is selling is for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I would do this thing in my mind where it's like, oh, I just need this next, when I get this next program, or when I work with this next coach, or when I do this next thing, then I'm going to be successful. And I think that that's a trap that a lot of in life and in business we can fall into, because we are waiting for something XYZ, for the secret sauce, for us to like start to skyrocket. And yes, those people, I have received so much amazing information and grown so much in my business, but a really big shift I saw in myself energetically, in my leadership and financially, was when I realized that I have the answers inside of me and I get to apply my learnings, but my power isn't outside of me. And if I keep thinking that when I join the next program or the next coach or the next mastermind, then I'm going to be successful, I'm always going to be chasing my tail.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, that is such an important lesson to learn, that there are times when you do need to hire help, or you do need coaching. But if you spend a little bit of time reflecting and just thinking about what you know and what you have access to already, often you already know what you need to do. I think sometimes people hire consultants and coaches to almost talk them out of doing the thing that they know they need to do. And I only say that because I've done that. I've actually hired coaches before because I think I needed to hear like, don't do this thing that you're thinking will work. You need to do this other thing. And of course, I already knew the answer all along. I needed to do the thing that I really wanted to do and go for. So it's very interesting how all of that can work. So Danielle, with everything that you've had going on, have you ever experienced burnout in your business or as an athlete? And if you have, would you be willing to share that story with us?
So in the beginning of my business, I was in the end of my sports career.
Yeah.
And the last year that I was training, I went to World Championships in South Korea in 2019. And I was at a place then. And so this is another challenge that I faced in sport, is like we were an unpaid sport. So it was like a pay to participate. So I, had to work. We had some subsidies, but you have to work to live. And then you have to do your sport, right? And so I was working 3 days a week, part-time. I was training full-time for the World Championships. I was writing my book. And I was kind of the beginning stages of building my like business outside of my book. I was running like small events and stuff like that. And I was getting to a point that year where I was like sleeping 4 hours a night. And I was training for the World Championships at the same time. So I was so exhausted that by the time I actually retired, I was burnt out. And I know my body quite well. And I was at this place where I was like, I just don't have any energy, and I'm used to having to push past that. So I had to kind of start my business from a place of burnout. And that took a lot of kindness, and self-acceptance and grace in that period. And then I have been really self-aware while I've been building to not get myself to that stage again. And so it's been a balance for me of figuring out the balance of like, okay, I'm a high achiever and I'm going to work hard and put effort and be really dedicated to my business, but also turn off. So for me, like me and my partner, like our sacred thing is we do not work on Sundays. Because we realized that we were working 7 days a week, and then you just get so tired, and then you get resentful of something that you actually really love to do. And so even at first it was, like we were working 6 days a week, but we had Sundays off. So by the time we got to Monday again, we're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm actually so excited to get back into it. And for now it's like Saturdays and Sundays, so like I've created a normal kind of work week for myself.
But not a 9 to 5.
Not a 9 to 5. Yeah. And so that's been really great, like creating boundaries for myself in that, and making sure that when I start my day, like I do something for me first, whether that be going for a walk or meditating or journaling or exercising, and not going straight into it, because that's what works for me. Because especially in the work that I do, like I'm a service provider, if I'm not in my optimal health, I can't actually do my job. Right. So that's been a really important reminder that like I actually am my greatest investment.
You're watching The Game of Leadership, and I'm the host, Julie B. I'm here with Danielle Kettlewell today, and we are talking about all things business and Olympics and sports and burnout. So Danielle, I want to ask you, as someone who has competed as a synchronized swimmer at the Olympic level, talk a little bit about the importance of team, and you can, both in sports and business, and anything that you've seen the parallels in between those two in your life.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I was in a team sport, because I truly believe that the team was one of the main reasons for my success, and I credit myself for that too, but that's one of the things I found challenging when I moved into the online business world. Is like, I don't have my team to show up for every single day. And so then my team kind of became my community, my clients. And, it's what I see psychologically in people, in athletes, in humans, is that we actually are really easy to give up on ourselves. Because if we have no one to be accountable for, we're going to be down and out and be like, okay, peace, see ya, like I'm done. But when we have human beings that are there, for me, I had my friends, my teammates were at training. So it's like, if I didn't show up, I let them down. And then if I was letting them down, it was so much bigger than me. And so I really believe that team is such a powerful fuel for our own success. And that team really is a representation of like accountability. But then, in other side of business too, it's been like support system, so like realizing that even in this online business, I don't have to do it all alone, nor should I, because I'm not good at everything. But, when we all start business, you're like accounting and marketing and sales and like customer service and HR, like you're everything, right? And then as you start to grow, you start to outsource that more. And it's been really powerful in my own realization of growing myself. And like, I don't have a big team, like a small team of like my own coaches and my own virtual assistants and stuff, realizing that I get to delegate and I get to be supported, just like my teammates would support me in training. Now I'm kind of building my own team. And it doesn't mean anything bad if you don't do it all on your own. If anything, you're kind of stupid if you do try and do it all on your own, because it's just unrealistic. And then you are probably going to burn out. And I think that, no one has created anything on their own. Like, unless you have coded your website from like scratch, like you haven't done it on your own. Like we're all using different website platforms and like Canva and like marketing email campaigns. Like we all have team, whether that be like a virtual systems team, whether that be physical team, or whether that be the team of like the people that we're around, whether that be like masterminds or colleagues or people doing similar work that like hold us to a certain standard so that we can achieve that success.
Speaking of success, that's a great segue. How do you define success today? Because as an athlete, obviously success usually is winning or medaling or, whatever it may be. But today, how do you define success for yourself?
So as an athlete, you're very much told that success means winning, or success means like going up in ranking or something along those lines. And, you know, it had an interesting story. One of the things so I competed for Australia, and funny enough, everyone's always surprised when I say this, but our biggest competitor was Egypt in the Olympics. And so our goal was to beat Egypt. And we were going for that and going for it. When we actually got to the Olympics, went to the Olympics, we didn't beat Egypt. And so that was heart-wrenching. Yeah. But then the following year, we got to go to World Championships in Budapest in Hungary. And we had like an incredible swim, an incredible competition, and we got a higher score and we beat Egypt. And it's interesting because that was a moment where I was literally standing on stage and like crying and in joy. And it wasn't just because, you know, like the Olympics was an amazing experience, but the success that I felt was a ripple effect of the work that we had done and the fulfillment that I found in the process, which created the aligned results, which was that beating of them. And so I think that it gets to be both, right? Yeah. Because like getting physical results feels good. Like having more clients, making more income, increasing your profit margins, it feels good. But if that comes without the actual internal fulfillment and the contribution, if that comes from you not actually enjoying what you're doing, then it feels empty, you know? And if we had gotten to that space and not felt like we deserved it to beat them, then it would have felt crappy. But because we actually internally felt worthy of it and had done the work, physical work and inner work to get there, it felt so holistically fulfilling. So I think that it gets to be and both.
Yeah. Based on the clients that you work with, what do you think is the thing that holds them back from feeling worthy of achieving a goal? I know I work with a lot of women too, and sometimes they just don't feel like they deserve what they've achieved. And do you have any insights in terms of like what you see that holds people back from that?
Such a loaded question, because I think it's more than one thing.
Yeah.
And this is why I like the basis of my work is self-worth and mindset. Because if you can achieve things without feeling worthy of it, but it doesn't ultimately feel good in the long run. And so, you know, a process that I do in a program that I run, which is called Reclamation, which is all about unlearning the things in our past which made us feel like we are not worthy or could not be worthy, and kind of rewriting and rewiring our belief systems to make us realize that we are worthy of the life that we've created and the results that we do achieve. And so it's like an unlearning process of the belief systems and a relearning, because I think a lot of us also, and this is why, you know, we see this so often with women and with entrepreneurs, we feel worthy when we work harder.
Yeah.
Right? So if we work harder, then we actually feel worthy of the results. But if we get the results without working harder, then we don't feel worthy of them. But we can still equally be just as worthy. But sometimes this is why I think people burn themselves out in business, because they think if they have worked harder, then they'll feel more worthy of the result when they get it. And I think that's why working on that internal worth, that it's really like, it's a process of unlearning and relearning our belief systems and realigning our belief systems with the life that we're wanting to live. That is what leads to ultimate fulfillment, because I used to be in a place where I didn't feel worthy of what I've created, and I holistically do feel worthy of everything that I've created now. And it's so cool to see that also reflected in me and in my clients.
That's amazing. Yeah, the unlearning point is something that you often hear so often. You change your mindset and read these books and do these things, and I think that it's really important that you have to, if you're having issues with, I think, self-worth, there is something that has made you think like, no matter how hard I work, no matter what I achieve, I'm not, I'm not worthy of it. And so wherever that's coming from, you have to rewrite that page in your history book, because otherwise you'll just carry that with you. And that type of energy doesn't usually set you up for big success either. And even if you get there, you don't feel great about it. So yeah, that's a really good way to put that unlearning of that problem first. Danielle, what legacy do you hope to leave?
What a question, hey?
I know, and I'm like, you told us how old you were early on, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to ask her this, because 10 years from now, I'm going to come back and say, this is the legacy that you said you wanted to leave. Where are you? How are you doing?
Yeah. The legacy that I want to lead, and I've actually written this down before, and so, but just tapping into the energy of it, is showing people around the world that they are worthy of the life that they are dreaming of, and that it's possible.
Well, I think you're on your way to that for sure, because I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm even more worthy of the things that I'm dreaming about just talking to you for a half an hour
good.
here.
Yeah, that makes me happy.
Cool. Well, listen, Danielle, this has been such a great conversation. But as we're coming to the end of our conversation, what leadership skills or traits do you think that you learned as an athlete that have served you really well as a business owner?
I love this question, and it's been something that I have been seeing more lately. I think it's something that I didn't see before. And so in the process of the business that I do now, I've been doing a lot of like reverse engineering of where my mindset was as an athlete and how I got there. Because when I created that success as an athlete, I wasn't like, you know, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I did have some conscious thoughts, but I kind of just did it. And now I'm like, if I'm looking back from a perspective of being able to teach it and share it, I kind of need to break it down. And one of the biggest things I've seen in leadership, and this has been reflected to me recently in our retreat, and similar as being an athlete, is the importance of embodiment. And so embodiment means being the person that you say that you are at all times. This goes for being an athlete, right? You say you want to be an elite athlete. Well, are you only showing up at training and being that, or are you also being that at home when no one's looking and no one's watching, right? And the same thing goes for the work that I do now. And it was so cool seeing at our retreat a few weeks ago, we had about half of them, the women that came were previous clients. And to see that they said to myself and my partner that we are the exact same people as they expected us to be, because that's who we are at all times. And I think sometimes in leadership, what we see is someone show up with a certain facade. And I think we all have different avenues of ourselves, right? And aspects of ourselves. But in general, we see sometimes leaders show up as one person and then be someone else behind the scenes, right? And I think that's an old form of leadership, because ultimately, I mean, karmically, I believe it comes back to you. But ultimately, I think it leads to your greater success, because then your identity shifts into this is who I am at all times. And therefore, you actually attract that reality. You know, living my life as a leader, living my life as a businesswoman doesn't mean like I walk around all the time like I'm a leader. It's like I'm no better than everyone else, right? But when I go to if I'm preaching kindness, you know, and grace to my clients online, I'm treating the people at the grocery store and the gas station the exact same way. And I think that this is the lack of integrity that some people have, and it ultimately comes back to bite you in leadership, in athleticism, and in life.
Danielle, I have so enjoyed our conversation today. Why don't you tell our guests where they can find out more information about you online?
Yes. So the best place to go is two places. My website, DanielleKettlewell.com. So it's like a kettle and a well. Or you can find me on Instagram, Danielle Kettlewell _ on Instagram. And you can send me a message if you've loved this space. I run programs. I do one-on-one coaching. We run retreats. And it's all about elevating your self-worth and your mindset to create a life that you desire. And my clients have had phenomenal results, and I love attracting new people into my world and helping them as well.
And thank you so much for your time today and being on the show. This was a great conversation. I had a blast. I can't wait for our listeners to hear it.
Amazing. Thank you, Julie.
And that is a wrap on this episode, but please subscribe to my channel on YouTube so that you don't miss out on conversations like this. I'm Julie B, and I thank you for playing the game of leadership.